Hello, my name is Catherine Lamont. I'm the writer-in-residence at Slate School. This year, our second graders created an imaginary land. They were inspired by the Bronte sisters and their brother, who created an imaginary world called Gondel when they were children. The name Yes and came from a style of collaboration that was taught to the children by one of our amazing second grade teachers. It's based on a technique in improvisational comedy where one person says something and the next person says yes to validate the first person's idea, and then and to add something. It proved to be a wonderful way to create this imaginary world around the table and share ideas and build on each other's ideas. It was an amazing experience for the children, and as teachers, we expected them to have incredible ideas. They always do, and we expected that amazing things would bubble up and that they would learn a lot about a collaboration. What I don't think we completely anticipated was what an extraordinary opportunity for cross-curricular learning this was. So the teachers sat around the table with the children. We obviously facilitated opportunities when we saw them, but mostly we just listened. My job was to write everything down in our big book of Yes and, which has actually turned out to be a really valuable archive for this whole experience. What the kinds of things that the children explored and learned. I'll just give you some examples. They explored plant biology because they tried to, figure out what kind of plants were on Yes and. They learned about what animals need when they were trying to determine what kind of animals live there. They learned about architecture because they were building these really interesting structures to live in on Yes and. They played around with geometry because they were building the bridge, the invisible bridge, until you believe, that takes you to Yes and. They wrote an origin story without even realizing it. They wrote a story that explains how Yes and got its magic, which was when two stars connected during a magical rainbow tsunami. And since then, the island of Yes and was magical, and all the animals and people could communicate with each other. They all knew each other's languages. The children really looked into ideas about government, trying to figure out how that worked on Yes and. They created a constitution for Yes and they even created a new form of government that they call empocracy, which is a cross between empathy and democracy. So as teachers, we knew that this was an amazing experience and exploration that we need to continue. We will definitely be returning to Yes and in the fall. This group of children are in second grade, and they'll be with us until sixth grade. So we can only imagine as the children get older what kind of really challenging, richer, deeper, amazing things could be explored in Yes and. I think anything is possible. They've shown us. One thing that we really are thinking about that has been a bit of a challenge for us. So for the future, we would like to really explore this more, and it would be really helpful if the panel had any ideas for this. This would be something that we're really grateful for the opportunity to share this with you. Visual collaboration. We found that you can see our big book of Yes and is all words, because we found that when the children drew pictures of Yes and, which they definitely wanted to do, they were very individual ideas. We found it difficult to find sort of a visual style of collaboration that approximated the way we talked about Yes and, so that everybody's ideas were clear and were heard, and that not one drawing didn't sort of define something that wasn't how other people saw it. So we would love some ideas from the panel or others about visual collaboration. We also would just love to, as we move forward, we have found that this is a really valuable, rigorous kind of learning, and we'd want to share that a bit with the world, both our parents and others and future collaborators, to show that just as schools can explore everything through the lens of theater or engineering or the ocean or art, we can explore everything with children through the imagination. So we'd love some ideas on how we can bring that idea more to the world. So thank you so much for this opportunity.